Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and I wanted to spotlight this free game that Valve put out called Aperture Desk Job. Now, you can see this game has been optimized for the Steam Deck. I don't own a Steam Deck. I don't plan on buying the first version of the Steam Deck. I think there's a potential I might buy a version 2 with some slight modifications and improvements, but also as much hype as around the Steam Deck, there is a considerable number of games in my large library that are not supported. How many? Over 1,000. So, like they're mentioning maybe 100, 200 games that I do own that are Steam Deck compatible at the beginning, but over 1,000 that don't work. I can see there are some elements certainly that even with this app are weird in that this is a windowed mode application and not using any of the like Microsoft Windows DirectX game interfaces. Uh, so using my recording software, it literally did not capture the footage as a game. I had to go and say just capture it as a windowed application, which there's a difference there, certainly as far as how much access you can have and how quickly you can draw to the screen. The difference often is imperceptible by most users, but there's a difference there, certainly. Uh, so I'm not coming from this hyped as a Steam Deck app or a demo for Steam Deck. I am coming from this as a fan of Portal. And this is set in the Portal universe, although it very possibly is going to just be like several other Portal universe side things where they are using Aperture Science as just the location because they don't really care. Valve doesn't care, and Valve is highly unlikely to make a Portal 3 until it can somehow make a Half-Life 3 and release that, which that very potentially is never going to happen. So I just want to see what kind of story is here. There have been some other spin-off games where they've let Portal appear, such as Bridge Constructor, but obviously in Bridge Constructor Portal, whatever it's called, there's not going to be any real story there. And then there have been some fan games like Black Mesa to touch upon and remake Half-Life 1 and Portal Reloaded as far as a side project, non canonical Portal game. Let's see. We'll turn on subtitles. There is a VSync option, native resolution option, and battery saver option, all of which would make a lot more sense as far as being in the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck's battery does, from what I've heard, seem to be pretty good, but there's still some weirdness there. I just hit my controller, and so I'm uncertain as to whether I want to try and play this with a controller or a mouse and keyboard. I guess it would make some sense to play it with a controller since technically the Steam Deck would be that. Um, so let's move the cursor down to the corner of the screen and just play with an Xbox 360 controller. The Steam Deck is effectively in the same orientation as an Xbox 360 controller compared to a PlayStation controller, but it has some overemphasis on the touchpads concept, dual touchpad concepts, which I think that is something I would like to see a version of the Steam Deck just kind of remove in favor of having the analog sticks and the D-pad in different positions. There is no actual D-pad on the Steam Deck, but if the controls felt more like an Xbox 360 controller in the right places, in where I would stretch my thumbs and fingers, I would probably enjoy that better than having the D-pads. Let's start.
Welcome to the Aperture Science Competence Center for our most gifted employees. I'm Cave Johnson, and if you're hearing this, you are exceptional. No, don't be bashful. It's true. No false modesty. Let's get started.
So,
look at all those
some of this
stretching off in the distance.
may not
Every one
be
of them's taking something important to a
familiar
genius
if you haven't
to
played
change the
Fallout
world
2 in a
forever.
while.
A genius just like you.
This is the
How are you going to change the world?
bottom
That's
part
up to
of
you. History will remember what you do here
Aperture
today. Do not let
Labs.
us, and by us I mean all of us, all of humanity, down. So congratulations. You are
You're
about
seeing
to take
people
part in the
around,
greatest science adventure at the greatest applied
and so
sciences
clearly
company on
this
Earth.
is a story that would be
Important
taking
work.
place
And you
during-
are just the genius to do it. God gave
during
you these
like
gifts.
the
I'm giving you the
1960s,
opportunity to use them.
whereas the Portal
Well, here's your
games
lab.
take
I don't mind
place
telling you, we're
thousands or
excited up
hundreds
here.
of years in the future.
Moon landing excited. Newton, Einstein.
Wait a minute.
Now you.
That's not right. I think I put the wrong tape in. Hold on.
Good luck, world's best science.
Okay, here we go.
You, in the overalls. Get to work, or you're fired.
They don't give out overalls anymore. Anyway, my name's Grady. You can call me that. I mean, let's do introductions later. You should really already be... Honestly, I'm surprised you're not fired already. Anyway, you are a product inspector. That is your inspection desk. There in front of you, you will be inspecting, doesn't say. Anyway, something is going to come down the conveyor belt, whatever it is. Make sure it works. Once you've done that, keep doing that. That's the whole job. Anyway, just remember, the important thing is to have fun on your own time before you come in. Otherwise, it's just,
I'm not sure if
it's
this
real
is supposed to
bad
be
here.
a personality core,
It's fine. You're
or
probably
if this is
Good
just an
luck.
intercom and there's a person behind that. Alright, so we see the prompts blinking XYBA, which definitely is more Xbox layout than, say, Nintendo Switch layout, which I guess the Switch is A is south and B is east also, whereas previous Nintendo things, A would have been east and B would have been south, more in the Japanese style of the button layouts. But we're definitely not seeing triangle, square, X, and circle from what you would see on the PlayStation controller. X brings up the D-pad, Y, A, and B then does nothing. So, weirdly, I don't think this... No, I'm 100% certain. Maybe there is a D-pad. Yeah, this layout is supposed to be the Steam Deck, so there must be a D-pad, and it's just kind of in a weird spot that I don't even remember it. It's so unrecognizable or unmemorable. The thing that the Steam Deck does certainly have that is memorable is the fact that the analog sticks have white on the inside of their plastic, which really clashes with the rest of the Steam Deck being almost all black, and that the analog sticks stick up very high, which is good for controls but bad for storing them. And I feel like there should be a way in which you could fairly easily remove the analog sticks and replace them if they're broken, which often they do have problems and need to be broken, without disassembling the rest of the Steam Deck, which is doable but more difficult. But also a way that you could just remove them and store them in a storage case that would be flatter. So we hit the D-pad, and so you have a left and a right trigger, left stick and right stick, which these are clearly being depicted in a different way. And there is a button on top of the sticks, I assume, on the Steam Deck. It seems like that would be it. And then we have a left bump and a right bump. And then you have a left trigger and a right trigger. And so everything is calibrated. So testing and calibration detect thing. So we have a toilet here with some kind of plumbing or electronics extra, and it seems like it's potentially recycling the water back into the tank, which, while an interesting thought, would probably never work. And I guess the idea is we're supposed to either hold X until it's all the way full, or press X. Pressing X seems to have worked fine. And holding seems to work. So I guess maybe that's some kind of like weird bidet function that they're putting into it. There is actually a toilet that they're working on, or that they've made, that is designed to make a lot of water go around the edge of the bowl, so it's self-cleaning a lot better than your average toilet. That's about the only improvements worth actually wanting in a toilet, other than having a bidet. I will fully say that having a bidet is something everybody should try, and nobody in the United States and the West is willing to try. But yeah, otherwise, toilet technology has only been improved to use less water, and which has just caused it to clog more often. And I assume, oh, you do have to hold down Y that time. Yeah, I assume this is going to get more interesting, because this is pretty dull doing this 3 times. I assume we should probably try hitting.
Dadgummit. I knew it. I left the volume down. Hold on.
Zip, zap, zop. That is how you inspect a toilet. I hope you were paying attention, because I'm not saying any of that twice. Look, it's not rocket science. It's not even toilet science. Here's everything you need to know. See that light on the wall? If that light goes on, you're fired.
Okay, good. You heard the important part. Wait, hold on. Have they all been smoking? You know what? It's not our job to test if the toilet's on fire, right? Just do your regular thing like normal. Move it down the line, and then it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah, I assume that this is somebody just talking to me, but it could be a personality core.
I mean, your job is bad.
You can't hit both buttons at the same time.
I mean, it's the worst job at the company. Way worse than mine. Do you hear that? Hold on, let me take a look. Yeah, keep testing it. I think there's a jam. Oh. Can you get me out of here, please? Thank you. Nope, I'm just wet now. No. That's just push. It's working. Keep press. Oh, please stop. Please stop. Please stop.
I guess he is a personality
It's
core.
working. Keep doing that.
And so now bullets are in the toilet.
Just test it. Get it out of here. So, first off, I think we're in a lot of trouble here. Now, I also think we're going to be rich, because I think you just admitted something. Okay, here's what we are going to do. I'm going to go work on this in secret. Just you go back and pretend to go back to work, right? Like, it's got to look good. I mean, just pretend the most you've ever. You know what? Just go back to work, actually. Yeah, that works. I'll be back.
And so, yeah, you needed some story here, because this was going to get really annoying very fast. But it does feel like that was pretty dull. 6 months later. So you've done 278,100 toilets
Hey, I'm
being
back.
inspected.
Yeah, I'm back. First off, you did awesome pretending to calibrate all those toilets. The best. All right, are you ready for this? Presenting. Press.
Hey.
You gotta press the button. Presenting. Press the button. Presenting. Presenting. Press
See how
the
long
button,
he-
Press the button. Press the button. Press the button. You're not pressing the button. Yeah, you're not pressing
It
the
just looks like a regular
Press
toilet
the
here.
Button. I mean, this is good. It's so good, but presenting, still presenting, about to be presenting, about almost time to any minute now if you press the button. Presenting, still. I mean, we're still presenting, about to be presenting.
How many
any
lines of
moment,
dialogue did they record
any
here?
minute now, if you press that button, we will be presenting. You're not pressing the button, just press it. It's a button you press.
It seems like that's probably where it ends. Or there is a
You're not pressing
secret.
the button, just press it. It's a button you press. Presenting the Aperture Science turret. Go on, take it for a spin.
So it's a turret where
Yeah.
it shoots
And I haven't
guns.
even showed you the best part.
And this
Here's
is
the best
where
part.
we see a gun. You see these turrets in Portal 2 later on. So this
Left
is where they
trigger to
came
open
from.
the wings, right stick to aim, and right trigger to shoot. Give it a shot.
Let's see.
It's the buttons that
What does
just
the
opened
button
up
do?
on the desk. Seriously, this
Nothing.
is the best part. Shooting. You know what though? I mean, you're definitely going to kill yourself with it pointed at you like that. So let me just turn it around. All right, shoot again. Don't worry, it's safe. I mean, this time. This time it's safe. Last time it wasn't. You almost died. Wow! Holy moly, man. That is great! Oh, man, the turret broke. That was the only one, too. But don't even worry about it, because here's what I've actually been working on. Ta-da! Introducing the Mark II. This is what I spent most of the 6 months on. It was 1 month for the first turret, and then like 5 for this bad boy. Oh man, you gotta take my picture with this. The desk should have a camera built into it.
Okay.
Are you
F12,
taking a
take a
picture?
screenshot.
I'm posing for it right now. This is my posing face, not my regular face. Okay, good.
So that just
Moment
automatically took a
recorded
picture. I
for all
never hit
industry books.
F12.
Now for the fun part.
Almost
You
certainly on the
are
Steam
gonna take
Deck,
it for a
there's
spin.
some other
Here, let
button
me turn it around.
that's a screenshot button. But
Okay, normally I'd
the
walk you through
Xbox
everything,
controller
but
I
if you
have
get it,
has a
let's just
back
open
button,
everything at once and see what
and
happens.
so I could have, like,
Okay,
at
go
any
crazy.
point
All
hit
those
the back
control-
button to take a screenshot,
Controls do something.
or hit, but it's just pausing.
Oh, also, some of the crates you're shooting at might explode. Don't worry about that.
See, you just can't look at the desk,
Seriously, go on. You're not gonna break it.
so
I mean, I hope you don't break it. That's the only one. Everything you can see on it shoots something. If it, wow, right? Oh, this is great. This thing shoots so good. Okay, a part fell off. Keep going though. All right, something else fell off. You can still shoot everything else. Don't even worry about it. Okay, go crazy. All
there's
those controls
definitely
do something.
nothing that the D-pad
Oh, okay,
is-
quite a bit's falling off. Keep shooting. You're not doing
Like,
this.
the
This
dual
is a
touch
structural
screen
engineering
things.
problem. It's on me. You're doing
not really doing much. If I was to
Okay,
bring
go
the mouse
crazy.
back
All
onto the
those controls do
screen,
something.
it doesn't seem like
Oh,
there's any
also,
controls
some
there.
of the crates you're shooting at might explode. Don't worry about that.
So you really couldn't play this
Seriously,
without
go
a
on.
controller, I
You're
don't
not
think.
gonna break it. I mean, I bet it's the glue. I'm 99% convinced that. It even looked cheap when I bought it. I remember looking at it like, spend the extra $1 And yep, here we are.
So things are breaking as you're using them. So he's trying to get you to use everything on the Steam Deck theoretically. But the touchpads seem to be unnecessary additions. And I think that is the case generally as it works. Is that if you're going to use the touchpad, they are just going to replace what is the left and right analog
stick.
stick.
Some of the stuff I put on there just didn't work. Most of it, like 90%.
I'm fairly certain the Steam Deck has a touchscreen, though.
Some of it worked great.
So I just don't think the touchpads are as necessary for most games. And then I really question
that's the police.
if the touchscreens even helps when playing something that's a mouse and keyboard style games, older games.
Which job do you want? How about I fix a turret and you take, I'll do that part. Remember, if anyone asks, you don't know me, okay? Don't say anything.
Yeah. I could even see the idea of like being able to remove the touchpads and putting analog sticks there instead. And I could certainly understand the idea of even having analog sticks with maybe some buttons around it or touchpads around it, cutting a hole in the middle of the touchpad.
Thanks for keeping your mouth shut and doing your time.
18 months later.
It was way more time than either of us were expecting. I don't know what was in those boxes we blew up, but they were, were they mad.
And this is the Aperture Science jail,
Let's get you out of here.
apparently.
Given that the offender has faithfully observed the rules of the institution, offender has been granted supervised early release. Please sign for your possessions. Inmates' possessions are as follows. Desk, 1. Inmate must state their name, print their name, then sign their name. After the tone, state your name into the desk.
Rydo.
Inmate's name is now preserved for the permanent record as...
It didn't record it. That's not super surprising.
Now, type
But
your name.
and see, at this point, the Steam Deck would probably pop up
Type your name.
a keyboard, a touchscreen type keyboard. It's just, I'll try and type
your
and see
name into the desk.
if that works. Enter. Of course,
Moving
now
on.
the
Now,
sign
sign your name.
for a PC, you're gonna have to use a mouse, which now the mouse is actually more
Sign your...
durable. Where do you
As a
finish?
condition of
Just
supervised
it just
early
waits, I
Parole
guess.
and desk agree to report within 15 days.
Hey, don't listen to her. You don't need to worry about reporting to your parole officer. Guess who spent the last 18 months getting his probation agent license through the mail? Yep, me. That's right. I'm your parole officer. I mean, not just you. I'm managing like 7 guys on parole right now, but they're basically reintegrated back into society. Well, not Tony. He's struggling a little, but anyway, that's all I was doing. I got something to show you. Let's get out of here.
It is never too late to mend. You are both free to go.
Oh, bring your desk.
That you would just bring the desk or have the desk with you is very silly.
Okay. I streamlined the turret while you were gone. Introducing the Mark III. Ta-da! So I got rid of all the parts that fell off and just kept the stuff that worked. I mean, it was totally over-engineered, so it just does one thing now. It shoots. It didn't need a satellite dish. That was just dumb. Here, try it on these appliances I found. They were just lying around in the housewares research department in a locked room.
So it seems like, though, the actual gameplay
It's just
mechanics
like the Mark
here
1. Left trigger
is-
opens the wings, right stick to aim, right trigger to shoot.
it seems like we are still just kind of
Don't
doing
worry,
the same
we won't
thing.
Go back to prison this time. I'm saying this. I like that tattoo on your neck. Did you do it yourself? It's like is it a dragon holding a knife? It's nice. The more I look at the tattoo, the more I'm thinking we should both have it. Because then we'd be tattoo bros. Anybody would gonna look at us and know we are friends. You think you give me the same tattoo? Would that be weird? It would be weird. I would say
Like, this is the first part that actually
I'll think
feels like actual
It's
gameplay.
like a robot arm coming out of the side of my head, and it's holding a wrench. So you got the dragon and the knife, and mine's similar, but more robot themed. Man, that'd be so cool. Oh, speaking of being cool, I've got something even better to show you. Gyroscopic controls. It's really easy.
So-
just pick up the desk, tilt it around to aim, and keep that thumb on the
I
right
don't think
thumbstick, and you shoot with the right
Xbox
trigger,
One
like
controllers-
Go on, try it.
I don't think we
It's really
have
easy.
any
Just
gyro
pick up the
controls.
desk, tilt it around to aim, and keep that
Yeah.
thumb on the right thumbstick. And you
Xbox
shoot
One
with the right
controller
trigger like normal. Go on, try it.
Doesn't have gyroscopic controls. So effectively what
How
I'm
much did
doing
the tattoo
here,
hurt?
I'm just
Did you
doing what I
proper
did
tools?
before.
I would bet not actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. You probably
can't
have
help but
to
feel
have a
like
pen with a lighter,
this is a
something that
case
sounds- I mean, that sounds
where
pretty awesome.
they are intentionally just trying to make
Another
you
tattoo idea I just had is
jealous
have a robot hand coming out
around.
with a wrench.
Yeah, I
What if it
can't
was like a
move fast
skeleton?
enough to hit these
So you
flying
look at it like,
ones.
What's he trying to say? Is he human on the inside, or does he have like a skeleton trapped in him? You know what? Skeleton arm tattoo. I decided. That's the one I want. So when we get a free minute, I'll find a pen and we can heat up that light. Alright, everything checks out. This thing is perfect. I think we're good to go here. So, I was saving the
Yeah.
best for last.
It
While you
definitely
were in
feels
jail,
like this
I
is
got us a meeting to show our turret to Cave
this
Johnson.
is just
That's
designed
right,
to
the
make
owner
you
of the
really
company.
want the Steam
No
Deck,
pressure, but
or
if he
show
likes
off what
this,
you can do
he's
with the
gonna
Steam
make
Deck.
us rich.
It's a little surprising
ready?
that this wouldn't
Let's
just be
go.
by default installed on every Steam Deck as a demo, because that's all it really is. Of course, there is also some weirdness here. You need a more generic demo, because there are going to be a decent number of people who don't remember what happened in Portal 2 and just find this off-putting and weird as a narrative. It is actually a little shocking that people who
What are you gonna do with your share of
ordered
money?
the Steam Deck did
I know what
not
I'm gonna do is pay
get
off the money I borrowed to
any
make
kind
this
of like
turret.
Steam store credit
I
or
can legally
anything.
pay it off.
It would make a lot of sense to spend
I'll-
$500
I
on
mean,
the Steam Deck
I'll
and
be in
get
some real trouble.
$50
dig.
to $100
I'll pay
worth
that
of
too.
Steam store credit. As I mean, it's
Does it
no
make
skin
sense
off
to you
Valve's
that the VIG is more than what I
um,
borrowed in the first place? It doesn't
accounting
seem like
books
it.
if they did that.
That's weird. Somebody overrode the controls. Hold on.
Yeah. Valve has already kind of failed.
That's one of the appliances I stole from Housewares. Oh, jeez, it's got a gun! It's an ambush! Man, he got that turret good, huh? Good thing I brought a couple of spares.
Interesting. So now it's shooting against other
I knew it!
appliances.
It's the Housewares department. How did they find out about our turret? I can't believe it. They stole our idea, and now they're gonna kill us with it. Housewares, man. They're never gonna stop ambushing us. I mean, it's not really an ambush anymore. We know they're coming, but I don't think they're gonna stop coming. We need to think of something else.
Seems like they might explode
Let
a
me
little
get you a
bit
new
better
turret. I didn't bring a ton
when-
of those, though. That might be my last one, maybe two more.
when you shoot the actual guns instead of just the shells, but
I really
everything kind of
Gonna keep
explodes.
coming for like basically forever.
Actually, I think it's a little bit easier to
Housewares, man. Can you believe it?
shoot,
Those guys are such
a little bit
pieces.
easier to shoot
When did we
the
ever even-
body than it is to shoot the gun. This is one of those games where it's dangerous because the noisy gun sound effects
I got the elevator working again, but we have another
can
8
get
floors
really
before we get to
annoying.
cave. We're not going to survive 80 ambushes in a row. Your desk should have some buttons on the underside of it. Those fire the rockets that got built into the desk. They put those on there standard now for safety reasons. So, if you hit all 4 buttons at once, it should rocket us up to all 80 levels real fast, and then up through the floor of Cave's office.
Unfortunately, you would have to have like the Microsoft Pro
It's also
buttons.
just now occurring to me that there's no roof on this elevator. It's more of a platform. But you know what?
So
Let's do it anyway.
they're just copying the left trigger and right trigger and left bump and right bump buttons.
Automatic death launch sequencer engaged.
Instead, the Steam Deck would.
Go for launch. 10, 9, 8.
The Steam Deck does have more buttons. Although I will have to say, I don't really like the fact of an R3 or R4 buttons because I don't particularly have the dexterity to use my middle finger or my ring finger or my pinky finger to pull a
Really
button
nice work.
accurately. I've just never had a controller
They probably gave up. I
that
have given up by now.
that required developing
Let's go
that
show
skill.
This thing to Cave. Also, I do have one quick confession. I didn't actually get an appointment with Cave Johnson. I lied about that. But it turns out, I didn't know this, it turns out nobody's seen him in years. I did know it when I lied to you about our appointment, but it was still pretty new information. Anyway, I'm not gonna lie to you anymore. I think he might be a millionaire recluse now. So, be ready for that.
I
There might be
imagine
a lot of jars.
we're just gonna run into
Hello, Mr. Johnson?
the main bad guy character in Portal. What is her name?
Let's
GLaDOS?
just go in.
Yeah. What would be funny is if
Mr.
this turns
Johnson,
out that
Are you here?
you somehow are going to become the person in charge of Aperture Science for a
Hey
brief
there.
time.
It's me, Cave Johnson. No, not behind the giant head. I am the giant head. I'm gonna level with you. A few years back, I got real sick. Body riddled with disease. I was a goner.
Apparently I can shoot him.
Threw every dollar I had at it. Told those eggheads, hey, eggheads, make me live forever. Now, I know what you're thinking. You gave the smartest engineers on Earth a blank
Looks
check
like
to
I could
make you
shoot several
immortal,
things.
and this is what they came up with? A giant head? Off by a mile. No. They figured out how to put my consciousness in a computer. That's what's in the giant head. Their first plan was to put me in a regular brain-sized computer. Then they'd put that in a robot body, and hey, presto. Well, turns out you can't fit an entire human mind in a computer that small. All I could do was tell time and know what my name was. So they kept making it bigger. Big enough to cram every last bit of me into this thing. What happened to my robot body? Still under the head, somewhere, all crushed up. Couldn't support the weight. So the lab boys put me in the big head, switched me on, and I don't know, I panicked, killed a few of them. Said I'd kill more if they ever came back. Honestly, I regret that.
It's funny you can see
Anyway, that was 4 years ago.
like these
Been trying to
screens
get
showing
somebody's
the
attention
outside.
ever since. Get their butts up here and end my suffering. Now, don't worry about me. It's been a full life, but
I guess this
we're
is
done
telling
here.
you what
I'm
happened to
itching
Cave
for the next
Johnson,
step. Heck, I'm excited about it.
which they
Don't even
never
think
have
of it as
explained
killing
that.
me. You're breaking me out of prison. I'm just data now. I need you to crack this big clay head open so I can spill out into the universe. So, what do you two eggheads got?
you are in luck. We actually came up here to show you our new invention.
Good stuff. Let's see it.
Show them, partner.
Let's see.
Well, waiting.
Look, I get it. It feels weird to shoot at the boss, but it's what he wants.
Showing me something or what?
Apparently hitting
Is it your
him.
tough-looking sidekick with the neck tattoo and prison muscles?
I don't know if you're having like a moral crisis. Look, yes, he is our boss, which typically we wouldn't shoot him, but he's actually getting really angry that we are not shooting him right now.
Alright, well,
I am standing here waiting to be impressed. Sitting here.
okay.
Resting. Whoa! That'll work. I'll be honest, I thought you were two lunatics who dragged a toilet up here, but you are geniuses.
He called us geniuses.
So this is just slowly going to do procedural damage, although this procedural damage really doesn't have anything to do with the Steam Deck,
We need
and the
to find his
visuals
weak spot.
we're seeing here are probably going to look a little worse on the Steam Deck. The Steam
Keep
Deck's
going.
Going,
screen
sir.
ideally would be like a LED, OLED, organic LED thing.
Oh no!
What?
You are made of metal, sir.
So shoot the metal. Is it working? In the head, I can't see.
It's working great, sir.
It doesn't feel like it's working, but for the egghead.
I don't think it's working, but keep shooting. It's making him happy. Hey, you see that? I think that's his power source.
So just now it's just a scripted thing. Just pull the trigger, I guess, to shoot it.
Oh, here we go. Powering down. Great beyond. Well,
Yeah, I'd
I'll
say
give
the
you
Steam
credit.
Deck
That is
ideally
one hell of an
needs a better
did
screen.
it.
Very possibly a
out how
better
to
screen
end
to
my
play outside in the
right.
sun. Like, I haven't seen
Suffering
a lot of
ended
people
in 3.
trying it outside of sitting in a house in a room, and there's a lot of scenarios where people are testing a Steam Deck where they could very easily
Backup
have
power activated.
a computer in front of them instead.
Here,
In a
boss.
lot of uses
I
of
need your
the
key cards. Just lay them down in front of the head. Not
a lot of
too
the
close to
scenarios in which
chin,
the
or I
Steam
won't be
Deck
able to
gets
see.
its extra value would be through Steam Link streaming, which would require you to own a decent gaming PC in the first place. So definitely, it's very hard, in my opinion, to recommend getting a Steam Deck instead of a gaming PC. It only
You know
makes
what?
sense to get it
It
on
just
top of having a
occurred to me
game.
that the only person who knows Cave Johnson asked us to kill him is
Would be
Nailed
yeah,
it.
you would definitely need a
Yeah.
gaming PC first.
Do you know what the punishment for murder is? They told us in parole officer school, you're not gonna like this. It's life. Your whole life in prison. We should, yeah, we should leave. Don't touch anything. And bring the desk.
And we can see the praying mantis society rose and fell months later.
Morning, Charlie. It's me, Gary. Gary, your boss. Keep inspecting those toilets. Good work, good stuff. Good. Hey, it's just me, Grady. Yeah, just like yesterday. Man, this witness protection program is great. I don't know why we didn't turn state's evidence against those loan sharks in the first place. We don't have to pay any of the money back. We got cool new names. I like yours a lot, by the way. You know, come to think of it, you'd think they'd move us to another state or give us new jobs or something. Feels like everything is exactly
He's got that
the
tattoo
same,
on the side of his
except our
face.
first names. You know what? They know what they're doing. Anyway, see you tomorrow, Charlie.
I thought for a second there they might just loop back and make you do the whole demo a second time, but I don't see any real value in that. What's the spinning energy source in the left there? Is that something the praying mantis made? And is that his consciousness that moves into the turrets? Because the turrets oddly did have this consciousness in them, that the joke was almost that they had been programmed with artificial intelligence for no good reason. I guess this is just a choral credits sequence. Remember, the first Portal ended on a song that was very popular at the time, although the gag wore thin and they weren't really able to capture that idea that well at the end of Portal 2. Although Portal 2 is a much longer and better game because it's longer and tells the overall narrative that's better. If these names on the side are people that actually worked on this demo, that is way, way too many people. Yeah. And they named me. Yeah, there is way, way too many people named here. Even for the localization team, way too many people named here. And I'll get into my suspicion as to why that is the case in a second. And there's a jello mold or cake or something, since there's always the cake joke. Fade to black. And now I guess you have full-on chapter selects, which I guess is fine that exists, but it's kind of unnecessary. This is barely 45 minutes of content. And it is a hard play, certainly, when you're not playing with a Steam Deck, and not much of a game even if you were playing with a Steam Deck. So, slightly conspiracy theory, but more than likely not a conspiracy theory. The way Valve works is that they have notoriously said there are wheels on the desks, in the sense that you can go and work on any project you care about, and nobody's going to tell you you have to do this job or you have to do that job. Now, there's a second part to that I've heard, and I don't know how much this is true either, that once you start a project, you have to take some authority and ownership of that project and see it through to the end, which is obviously not true, because there's plenty of abandoned projects inside of Valve. Everybody knows that. That's been paying attention. At the end of the day, though, everybody is not afraid of being involved in a project because it might reflect badly if it goes bad, because nobody cares about that in Valve. Everybody wants to pretend like they had a major hand in a project that actually gets released, because it's the only way to justify their jobs. It is not a good way to run a business, in my opinion. It is based on this loose interpretation of libertarianism, where everybody can kind of just do whatever they want to do. But what it really has boiled down to is that there are people that actually own shares in Valve. And it's not really Gabe Newell as much as you would think. Gabe Newell is more a figurehead. He's not really the boss of Valve. But the other initial people that were around at Valve, the people with the shares, they're secretly the bosses of everybody else at Valve. But they don't want the title and they don't want the responsibilities, so they claim not to be the bosses. But there has to be some kind of ranking system when it's time to decide who gets a bonus, who gets hired, who gets fired. And so at some point you have to justify you've done something. So that's where you get a scenario like this, I suspect, and this again is my theory that I am fairly certain is true, is as soon as this project looked like something that was actually going to get released, everybody and their dog tried to get their name on it. They started helping and working out on it. And from the outside in, that can just look like, oh, everybody at Valve or every name we saw in the credits there was somebody that was really enthusiastic about the Steam Deck and this project. But for some people, it really was just people trying to justify their job. There are definitely people, I would suspect, that work at Valve that are working on Counter-Strike Go skins or just approving Steam Direct games, garbage asset flip games that get put on Steam every day. And they're probably overqualified to do that and unhappy with doing that. So do you want to work in the salt mines and approve 100 Steam Direct games every day, or would you want to potentially work on this Aperture Desk Job project? Anybody would jump at that. And clearly none of them could have had that much of an influence, because this literally is a tech demo that should have been made by maybe 5 new hires, interns. Really? There's not a lot here. Like the graphics, sure. If you have to get some graphics people in, maybe you get 2 or 3 graphics people. The audio, you get 2 or 3 audio people. But the core gameplay mechanics should not have anywhere more than maybe 10 or 20 people listed. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are people that put 1 line of code in, 2 lines of code in to do the gyro controls and the inputs. It is worth mentioning, I think, though, because the Steam Deck is based on Arch Linux, the inputs in the advanced programmable interfaces would have to be something fairly different. Like, you don't have anywhere as many people working on Arch Linux, like input drivers and gamepad drivers, as you would people at Microsoft working on DirectX for direct input and gamepad input, or APIs to draw the video in DirectX, DirectX 11, DirectX 12 now, direct audio. All of that kind of gets wrapped into DirectX. So they probably would have to kind of work with that. There is OpenGL, but I don't know if there is a open input. OpenGL is an open graphics language, which ideally would have been the replacement of DirectX, but it's not got as many people or as much money behind it, so it's never really improved itself so well that it could completely replace games. Many games allow you to potentially use DirectX or OpenGL, and in many cases you still want DirectX because DirectX jumps on software ray tracing, where I've never heard of OpenGL embracing software ray tracing at all. It probably will eventually, it's just going to be slow about it. But yeah, I don't know of anything that's like an open input. Arch Linux is probably getting all of its input using a package or software called XDev, XDEV, as far as its device inputs. Arch Linux is a very weird Linux in general, which is going to create a operating system for the Steam Deck that is much closer to a lockdown operating system that you would have on a console like the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5. arguably maybe closer even to the PlayStation 3's operating system, since I'm sure that was a form of Linux. The Xbox Series X is actually running on a version of Windows, not Linux. A very custom version of Linux that gets updated very infrequently, relatively speaking. So everything is going to be locked down. You're really not going to have you're not going to have enough space or enough processing power that you're going to try and compile and build your own packages in Arch Linux. That's very, very nerdy and unlikely to really be necessary. You might try to use the package manager Pacman to install a few applications, but I bet it's not going to be much because you just won't have the space for it. That is another problem with the Steam Deck, certainly, is that for a PC, it's very odd that there isn't a second slot for a second SSD, MIM stick, NVMe stick. It's very odd that there's not a potential second slot for even a micro SD. I think it has one. I'm fairly certain it does, but I don't even remember. So there are improvements certainly that could happen there. Nobody's going to ask to put a spinning hard drive in a Steam Deck, but it would make sense if there was a bit more of a automated dock system that they were building or selling that would have potentially a spinning hard drive attached to it or plugged into it, because yeah, you're going to want a lot more games and a lot more space than what they can offer for the Steam Deck. It definitely is a good step forward, though. It's better than the Steam Machines concept, which failed miserably, and it's better than the Steam Link device, which failed miserably. But it's also very valid to have no faith in Valve and just expect them to get bored with the Steam Deck and not make a Steam Deck 2 fast enough, or never make a Steam Deck 2, and just try and pass it off to other companies. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 years down the line we see Valve just licensing the Steam Deck name to some other computer manufacturing company and having them build a Steam Deck 2. Steam in general does let you install the emulation software RetroArch, which would let you play some of the older games. There's other emulators for slightly newer games that you could put Arch Linux builds on. But I don't think the Steam Deck really is going to be a good replacement for a Switch. You still would be better off getting a used Switch and some used Nintendo games if you haven't played those already. It is very hard to see the Steam Deck as it is right now as even a stepping stone forward for a kid if they have played all the Nintendo games on the Switch and are bored with them. So I would definitely at this moment suggest, if you want to play Nintendo games, definitely you should buy a used Switch or a new Switch, maybe because of controller drift, and play the Nintendo games. If you've already played the Nintendo games, then, and you want to play more games, then you probably should at least take one step into the bigger, slightly more expensive consoles of an Xbox Series S or a PlayStation 5 Lite or Pro, whatever, or Xbox Series X, and play some of those games. And if you feel like you've grown out of that, that would be the time to build a gaming PC. Maybe you could even skip the middle step and just go from the Switch to a gaming PC. But the Steam Deck is like far in step 4 or 5 as far as consoles that you would want to own after a gaming PC. Because in general, you're going to have just so much better of an experience having an actual PC and being able to play so many more games. There is also not even that much of an acceptance factor as far as parent acceptance factors in the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck looks like a Nintendo Switch. To parents who don't understand about video games or technology, they're going to see it as a toy. You're not going to be able to make the argument very well that the Steam Deck is supposed to be used for Zoom meetings or class remote learning, which none of that is potentially going to happen in the future by the time you get a Steam Deck anyways. But you're not going to pop up Word or Open Office more likely on Arch Linux. You probably would have trouble even installing Open Office. You're not going to plug in a keyboard and mouse to it and start typing up your school projects. You're not going to use it as an ebook reader to learn anything. There's not even really an interface, as far as I can tell, to play music or video. There's no Netflix streaming or YouTube special apps that have been shown off. It is a very much a unitasker device right now, and software will come, but it really needed to be talked about before they started selling the units. But yeah, even if software for video and music playing do come, you're still not going to make it seem like this is the kind of device that would be acceptable to bring to a school. It's also a very expensive device that could easily be stolen, which is another factor, certainly for parents. But yeah, you're not going to be able to bring this to school. You're not going to be able to use it as a calculator. You're not going to be able to write projects on it. So you still need a PC or a laptop or at least a Chromebook. And so, yeah, it is kind of expensive as a unitasker device when you look at it from that perspective of being a game console that just happens to run on a more open operating system versus looking at it where it's selling itself more as a PC or PC replacement. Anyways, that's going to be the spotlight for Aperture Desk Job. As I've ranted more about the Steam Deck than the game, there isn't really a lot to say about the game. It is a tech demo, but I do somewhat enjoy the idea to now know what happened to Cave Johnson. Yeah, I would have been fine if I never did know what happened to Cave Johnson, but whatever. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.